with Owwll, you get to research the person before making an outbound call. So you already have things in common with that individual. So if I want to research podcasters, let's say my goal in 2024 was to get on 50 podcasts. I could just go right into Owwll, search podcasters, just start calling them all.
Oh, wow.
And how cool is this? By next year, I would hit my goal because I could literally go through and chat with those individuals.
Welcome back to another episode of Attractive Mindset. And today's guest, this man, he's been all over the place, but definitely one of the significant, creations that he's been able to create is the Owwll App. And the Owwll App, if you don't know what it is, he's definitely going to explain more of that. But, he's a father, a husband, and just a well-rounded individual. When I first met him, I already knew he meant business and just how people gravitated towards him in the room. Absolute figure in the industry, Mr. Jason Hill.
Well, thanks for having me on the podcast today. We're matching colors over here.
Yeah.
We're both wearing all black,
yeah,
of course. And it was awesome that we got to meet each other at the Levan Center. And instantly you were giving me tips on cameras. We're both podcasters. And I was running through a situation where I bought a Sony camera, couldn't figure out the lens. And there you were to help me out. And that's actually all about what Owwll is. It's about connecting with like-minded individuals. And you want to do it quicker, right? That night, I just needed a tip on what camera lens to purchase. You showed me right on Amazon. You're like, you bought the wrong lens. And one day later, I had the right lens and I was back in business. And that's the power of Owwll. You could call people instantly, different types of experts like yourself, really pick their brain about anything. Either you want to network with them or get tips about a camera and what lens to buy at the end of the day. So thanks for having me on the show today.
Absolutely. So Jason, give us a little, backstory. Who is Jason?
Well, we have another thing in common, right? You see my phone number, 516. I saw yours, 718.
New York.
You see my landlines, say 212. I'll never give those things up.
Absolutely.
So my backstory, really comes from my roots in New York. I was raised in Port Washington, New York. And then after I went to college at University of Delaware, I came back, like many people, went into the financial service industry and right in New York City, lived in downtown Manhattan and really grinded my way to where I am today. I sacrificed a lot. I worked long hours. I woke up in the early days when I was living on Long Island, 4:30 in the morning, headed out in the car to beat the traffic. In New York City, it's not like South Florida, right? No. You got to get in the car by like 5:30 if you want to skip traffic. Traffic starts at like 6:30 a.m. and it goes all the way to like 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Right. It's absolutely nuts. And I would go to police precincts and do presentations in front of 20, 30 police officers at 22, 23 years old, right? Wow. This little kid with a suit and tie, you had to act professional with a briefcase and say, hey, I could help you and really guide you with your finances. And it was the 30, 10 to 2 model. What that means is you present in front of 30 people, 10 of them say that they're interested, 3 or 4 of them actually get on a meeting with you, and 1 of them does business with you. And you have to just consistently do that every single week. I would do that 2 days a week, once in the morning, once in the afternoon with 30 police officers. And eventually I created a book of business from scratch.
Wow.
Right. No one was going to just hand me clients or customers. I grinded my way for 6 months doing it with police officers. And then eventually started working with firefighters. And that's what just built my book of business, day in and day out, working hard, sacrificing at the end of the day. I think too many entrepreneurs don't sacrifice enough. We want everything. We want the nice car. We want the nice house. We want the boat. We want a pretty girlfriend, right? We want everything. We want nice restaurants. In my world, I had to sacrifice. I had a lot of friends that would try to drag me out to happy hour every single day in New York City, right? New York City, it's, you have happy hours every single day of the week, nightclubs, just like South Florida, every day of the week, go to a nightclub. And my friends, were well connected, right? I had friends that literally back in the day, you might remember that place called Bed, right?
Bed. Oh, wow.
All those cool nightclubs by the Gansevoort Hotel over there, right? I could have stepped in whenever I wanted to get into those, but I was like, I can't do this. Monday through Friday, didn't touch alcohol because I had to use my voice. If my voice wasn't there for me to speak, I would have been in trouble. I messed around a little bit when I was 23, 24, and I realized I can't do this anymore. I can't show up hungover and not in the zone, the right mindset. So I sacrificed a lot. My friends would make fun of me. They're like, Jason's waking up on a Saturday morning like, hey, this is Jason Hill. We met at the police precinct. And, my business voice came on, but I had to do that. I had to sacrifice in order to make things happen. And I bought real estate very young, bought in Long Island City, Queens.
Okay.
You know how that place has blossomed today.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I bought back in '09 when everyone said I was fucking crazy. Like, why are
Wow.
you buying in that shithole? They're like, there's nothing over there. I go, I could see the vision.
And
I see they're
now,
going to build buildings on the waterfront.
Mhm.
It's 5 minutes on a subway on the 7 train to my office on 42nd and Lexington.
Wow.
I could be on the Long Island Expressway within 5 minutes or the BQE within 5. And I was like, where else do you have that type of hub? And I was
Mhm.
right. Right. So you have to sometimes look around the corner in life and in business. And that's kind of what I did with Owwll. I saw the writing on the wall. We got the great resignation happening where everyone is going to want to be a business owner. Everybody is starting Instagram handles, LinkedIn profiles, and really business owners, right? They might work a 9 to 5, but after they get home, they want to start doing other things around their passion project.
Mm.
And I just said, there's a problem with social media. Our inboxes are overflowing. There is too much friction to get in touch with people. We read a quick line on their bio and then we move to the next person. And I was like, there's got to be a way where people could call one another instantly and connect with like-minded professionals and in a format that keeps it professional. And Owwll does that. We hide everyone's phone number. It's in-app phone calls. Literally, you could search different types of experts and pretty much search for one and pay the price to talk to them. And at the end of the day, most of the people then take these calls and say, it was never about the money.
Yeah.
It was about just creating a professional environment. And then those people call the other person back at the end of the day.
Mhm.
And that's what it's all about. Creating connections with like-minded professionals and just collaborating at the end of the day.
Got it. Okay. And so, being from New York, you definitely have to have this element of hustle and drive. But
Yeah.
where do you really feel like you got that mindset from to just separate yourselves from your friends?
Yeah. Well, started at a young age,
Mm.
right? My father started a store in New York City called Captain Hooks.
Mm.
So back in the 1970s, South Street Seaport, I'm sure you know about it,
Mhm.
was a huge tourist attraction. People would go down there. There'd be people, on the streets, flipping stuff, and it was magical, right? As a little kid, I would go down to my dad's store, sell stuff behind the counter. So I really learned how to talk to customers through his store. But then it was the other side. It was my father bringing me to flea markets and garage sales and flipping stuff. At a young age, I would buy stuff from these spots and literally like sell it, right? I sold candy on the bus at a young age. My mom would bring me to a store. I buy a bag for $5 and make like $20 selling candy.
Wow.
Right. I got in trouble at a young age for selling candy on the bus. Someone ratted me out to the principal, and my mom still loves sharing that story. But it made me an entrepreneur at a young age. And I always got into that. I started just buying race cars from the flea market and then selling these race cars, probably illegally, right? I would buy something and then bring it to Toys R Us, and they had no exchange policy.
Yeah.
And then I get like $100 for a race car that I
Wow.
spent like $10 on. And then I would actually go to someone like, hey, I have all this Toys R Us money. It was the dollars back in the day.
Mhm.
Like, you mind if I was a little kid. I was like, you mind if you let me use this instead? And they would give me the cash back.
Wow.
So probably on the border of legal, right? I wasn't doing anything too bad, but I was underage. But I just really learned how to be an entrepreneur through my father and my mother, of course, just you brought me to soccer games, brought me around, and really just taught me don't take shit from nobody. That was her. She was 5'4", raised in Washington Heights.
Oh,
So
yeah.
she was one of those just you don't mess with her type of
Yeah.
individuals. So she kind of taught me that side of things. So between both of them, I just learned a lot about business and my father, got to Sands Point, which is a very wealthy town in America and also Long Island and New York.
Mhm.
And most of the people around him, were business owners, right? The person who owned Home Depot, lived in the
Wow.
town, Acme Locks, and, Arizona Iced Tea. I mean, the list goes on and on with all these business owners that created wealth. And there was my dad, who was like a character who flipped stuff. Back in the day, there was no eBay,
Yeah.
right? So you could buy something for $10 in a flea market and potentially sell it for $1,000 in his store.
Wow.
So I just really learned the hustle through him. And then it started in the financial service business. My brother was in the business, my sister, but we just had to start from scratch, all of us. There
Wow.
was no, inheritance in that way. My dad's business shut down because the South Street Seaport kind of kicked out all the mom and pop stores and went a different direction. And when that happened, I just had to learn from scratch in the financial service business, but I always had that grind in me, being my own business owner. And that's what the financial service business can do. You start from scratch, you create your own clients and really kind of go down a direction you would like. And that's kind of what led me to, podcasting, right? Podcasting has changed my life. I started the Shrimp Tank podcast when I got down to Florida 7 years ago. We have over 260 episodes. We collaborate with the FEU College of Business, and we've interviewed some of the best and brightest entrepreneurs from South Florida, finding the do's and don'ts running a business. So that's kind of inspired me to put Owwll together. I've seen what they've done, and I've met the most incredible human beings out there through our show, and we give back. We run some big events locally. We bring our past guests back. The community gets to meet a lot of our past guests. We've interviewed folks like the founder of Celsius Beverage, the current CEO of Celsius Beverage, BurgerFi president, Bolay CEO, Tint World CEO and founder, right? So like you start interviewing all these big entrepreneurs, you start writing down ideas and tricks, and they talk to you, off air a lot over text and email, and you find they're just like you and I, but you do see some common trends. A lot of those trends are like the signs up on these walls, like Serena Williams, right over here, who wrote, "A champion is defined not by their wins, but how they could recover when they fall." And that's actually the answer. A lot of people fall down, and the successful ones get back up. They don't let the noise interfere, because you're going to have so many critics running a business. And I could sit here telling you that I've never been in a situation like I have been in with Owwll. Holy shit. The amount of, reviews, emails, and you just got to bite your tongue. I get one a day.
Wow.
And it's hard because everyone is quick to judge today. Like, boom, your app sucks. I didn't like it. Oh, your app has a glitch. Don't like this. Oh, you should do this. You should do that. I mean, the amount of noise running a mobile app is incredible, right? You got to defend it from all lanes. Once you start, having a platform where money is transferring around, you got to be careful. I mean, I'm in the money business, financial services. I'm still a registered financial advisor. I have clientele, and I've always learned a lot about money through them. Like, money creates a lot of problems. I mean, look at divorces, right? People could be best friends, soulmates, all of a sudden divorce, biggest enemies in the world. Business, partnerships, right? You've seen it, divorce through their business partnership. It's just like, when something goes wrong and money's in there, it's like people make really foolish decisions over money. We've had to cancel people's accounts over like $10.
Wow.
Because they're fighting about like a call got dropped and all this stuff, where I'm like, here's $10, call drop. Like, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about people who like immediately rush to judgment. Like, their money is like got stolen because of call drop. And I'm sitting here as like, CEO answering all these emails. I'm like, we got back to you within the first day. Like, breathe. It's going to be okay. Like, you didn't give us an opportunity to make it right. And there's things on a mobile platform that you just can't control at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody downloaded Owwll. It's in the Android review store. I list my price at $99. I drop my price all the time to serve our community. Ready for this? I told him a link to, download Owwll and let's chat. That's where I do all my intro calls. He downloaded it, saw it was $99, and immediately said I scammed him to convince him to download the app, that I have a lot of nerve to charge $99, and I tricked him to download the app. And he thought it was weird that I was giving him $10, as, a way to come into the app and try it out. So I gave this man $10 to call other people on the app for free. I'm $99. He leaves a review in the App Store that say it's a big scam. I go, you didn't even notice that I have over 1,200 reviews, the most amount of calls on the platform. And I call everybody that's on the platform. Every day I make calls. All he had to do is just say, hey, I noticed you're $99, and I would have said back, yeah, I drop my price all the time. He didn't give it more than an hour, right? He looked at it, saw it, and said scam. But you got to sometimes look at the different perspectives in life, right? Like, and sometimes people are just so quick to react, and then you can't take that shit off the internet.
Nope.
Then you ask nicely, and they're like, they give you the finger. They're like, no, they just immediately like, another trash app. And I was like, wow, like I put my heart and soul into this community, and you're just going to put that on the internet and not take it down. but people don't give a shit.
They don't.
They don't. There's no, unfortunately, control anymore with the way Google reviews, Yelp reviews, App Store, Google Play Store reviews. It's like these companies don't take shit down. And it's unfortunate because the people leaving them have the ability to do that, but they're not held accountable. Often I could sit there and say, please take it down, but then they don't answer their email. What am I going to do? Right? You're going to go on social media and then you don't have time. You can't waste your time with that noise running a business. So you move on. You hope one day it comes off. But of course, it reflects poorly on a brand. So, of course, there's more people that leave negative reviews than positive reviews at the end of the day. But that's what makes Owwll so powerful inside the app. Every person's held accountable, unlike other social platforms. When I call you, I'm leaving a review for you. You're leaving a review for me. It's two-way street. So if I do anything appropriate during our call, you leave me a 1-star review, right? And all of a sudden, like, other people are going to know that you had a bad experience, and you could report that individual. So if there's a female on our app, someone calls that female and really is not, trying to network her, they're trying to date her, right? That person's going to feel uncomfortable. And that person's going to be held responsible. Unlike Instagram, where these girls are getting pictures sent to them.
Yeah.
And then what are they going to do? They message Instagram, nothing happens, right? Clubhouse, people go in these rooms. I've seen racist things said on stage. I've seen just the most ridiculous comments to females. And you know what happens? Nothing, right? They get moved to the audience, not kicked off the platform, because then they just do it somewhere else. They do it on Zoom. They do it on a phone call. Nothing's tracked. But with Owwll, you have that security. You feel comfortable. And that's what people love about the platform and why people come back daily to utilize it and starting to remove their phone number from the internet. And they're starting to tell everyone, hey, all my intro calls are done through Owwll because it creates a safer environment for that intro conversation.
Got it. Okay. And so what kind of people would you say who's the target audience for Owwll?
It's a great question. We have about 75% of our users are solo entrepreneurs, right? Because when you think about that solo entrepreneur, they have to network. They have to connect with like-minded individuals to make things happen, right? We're both entrepreneurs, you and me, right? Like, we were sitting here because we were at a networking event. We were shaking hands and we were chit-chatting about a camera. You helped me out. And then all of a sudden, you brought up your podcast. I brought up my podcast and we're like, let's collaborate. Well, Owwll does that 24/7.
Wow.
Right? Like, we could connect on Owwll and continue that conversation after we met at a networking event. See, networking events are difficult. You have to drive there. You have to park. You have to go in. That icebreaker, you walk around a room. It's sometimes uncomfortable. You don't know who you're talking to. You get stuck in conversations for 30 minutes and you're like, you go home and you're like, oh, now that I'm looking at a profile, I wouldn't have spent so much time, chatting with this individual. It was a time suck. With Owwll, you get to research the person before making an outbound call. So you already have things in common with that individual. So if I want to research podcasters, let's say my goal in 2024 was to get on 50 podcasts. I could just go right into Owwll, search podcasters, just start calling them all.
Oh, wow.
And how cool is this? By next year, I would hit my goal because I could literally go through and chat with those individuals, right? So that's what makes it unique. And it's 24/7, meaning that every minute of the day, if you want to log into Owwll, there'll be somebody available to speak with. Now, it might not be those 50 podcasters, but there's a variety. There's a dietitian that recently has been going live a lot that I spoke to last week. That was pretty cool. There are experts when it comes to scaling your business, just overall, like business coaches that have worked with Fortune 500 companies. You have doctors in there. You have just all different types of medical professionals in there. Nurses, as an example, not just doctors. Then you also have lawyers, accountants, financial service professionals, insurance agents, real estate professionals. So at the end of the day, it's very similar to like when you would search LinkedIn and say, well, who's using LinkedIn? And you're like, well, professionals. So our base is that solo entrepreneur. Okay. And they're trying to grow their business and collaborate. And then the other 25%, it's scattered. You have your influencers that you would see on Cameo, right? So When I say that, it's literally like professional athletes.
Mhm.
We have a group of them. We have some celebrities, and we have some people with large social media accounts, and they utilize it really for their audience. They say, well, I can't control all these incoming messages
Mhm.
that come in. So why not just tell my audience, if you want to call me, I'm going to be like $100 for 10 minutes to chat on Owwll.
Yeah.
And then they're able to just literally go live on Owwll. Their audience gets a notification when they're available. They could post on their Instagram story, I'm live on Owwll for the next hour. Call me there. I'm $100 for 10 minutes, and just driving down traffic, to phone calls. But you know what happens? Collaborations. Because
Mhm.
at the end of the day, I hear I'm sitting at Owwll like, this makes no sense. I see all these people on Instagram. I message them.
Yeah.
I'm literally saying, I want to hire you. Here's money. You know what they do? Ask me what happens when I say I want, like, hey, I'm interested in working with you. Answer. What do you think?
Sure.
No, nothing,
Nothing.
nothing,
Wow.
nothing ever happens. I literally have wanted to hire people for 10 grand and I get no response.
Wow.
No response. I've literally sent messages to the CEO of events and said, hey, I'd love to have a booth with Owwll at your event. And you know what they say? Nothing. Because there's a problem going on social media. When you look at LinkedIn, like 75% of your messages are spam
Mhm.
or sales solicitations. So people, take the time to go through, and inevitably they don't know which ones are the real ones and which ones are the spam ones and solicitations.
Wow.
So they end up not doing a good job, most people. Yes, there's that. I think there's like 5% of people that do a good job.
Mhm.
And the reason why I know this is we surveyed a lot of people. And with Owwll, what we came to the conclusion is everyone just says they're good at it and they use their intuition. But that's not a true system. That's
Not
not
at
a
all.
process. And some people have like true like sales assistants that go into their messages and they're the ones going through it. Then they have a true process.
Mhm.
But even those can be missed. And the reason why is we're using our judgment, what we think, what someone thinks I'm worth, right? So they see, oh, startup founder Owwll as the first thing. They're like, what is this? Oh, another startup. They can't tell the difference between one mobile app and another, right? There's a gazillion mobile apps, right? One is over here that put in 10 grand. One over here is put in over $1 million, which is Owwll, right? And they wouldn't know the difference. Next, they look at like Shrimp Tank Podcast. Like, oh, what is that? Right? They didn't take the time to go to the website to see there's 260 episodes. And they're always looking at follower count. Our follower count sucks on the Shrimp Tank.
Yeah.
We got like 1,800 followers on Instagram, right? But it's a podcast. That's not my always focus is just like Instagram followers. Well, the 260 people that we've had on the Shrimp Tank are quite powerful.
Yeah.
And I got all their cell phone numbers. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then the third one down on my LinkedIn profile is my financial service firm, Client Focused Advisors, right? 4 financial advisors working together, right? With a large book of business, right? And all of a sudden it's like, they just made a judgment call based on like what they immediately saw.
Wow.
So people write bad copy on their profiles, but you can't tell. Everyone's just basing it on the wrong metrics, the metric of follower count, right? But when we look at actually most CEOs and people with high net worths over 50, because that's where the money is.
Absolutely.
I'm a financial service professional. All the money is over age 50 and 60 and 70. That's where a bulk load of, the net worths in this country live, right? But let me ask you a question. Does a 60-year-old typically have a big social media following now?
Yeah, now.
Some of them, but most don't.
No.
Some do. So at the end of the day, it's like people use the metric of following to net worth, and it's not true. So my point I'm making here is going back to the original story about me messaging people and wanting to hire them. I get ignored. And that makes no sense. The system is broken. We have message boxes overflowing and too many of them. When you start really adding up how many message boxes, Telegram, Slack, Facebook Messenger, right? WhatsApp. And then if you have a business, you have like 4 different message boxes for Facebook, Instagram, right? Twitter, TikTok, now Threads. And all of a sudden you're like, you expect every person to check every one of those?
Yeah.
Because your audience might live on one of them.
Exactly.
Right. I'm on LinkedIn a lot and Instagram. Right. Those are my 2, but I'm not checking all the others. So what ends up happening is people are losing opportunities. But if you gave them just one funnel once a month, once a week, hey, I'm always live on Owwll, 30 minutes on Thursday from 10 to 10:30. it would bring in an opportunity. It will bring in a sale. It'll bring in a client and something larger because I'm that guy. If I knew that person that I wanted a booth for that convention they were there and it was like $10, $50 to speak with them, I'd be like, and I get to the front of the line, I'm paying that price.
Absolutely.
Because it's quick and it's not about advice sometimes, it's just getting through, right? And we look at what Disney World did, right? It's the fast pass. Everyone pays.
Yeah.
Right. So it's the same thing. People are willing to pay to go fast. We see the highway, right? The HOV lane in Florida.
Express.
We pay to go fast. Owwll is paying to go fast. You have the experts there and you could literally pay to chat with them instantly. And you could request if they're not available to speak to, you have a button you click and it sends them a text message that you're requesting to speak with them. And they have the opportunity to say, I'll go live to take your money, right? So if you're charging $100 and you get a text message, it's $100 and I'm sitting there waiting for you. Just go live, speak to this person for 10 minutes. You got $100. And that's the value of the platform. It literally is eliminating friction to get through to people while keeping it professional.
Wow. That's amazing. That's, you know, I met this guy recently. His name is Eli. And so Eli created an app with two of his partners called Fantext. Yeah. And so Fantext basically, have you heard of them?
I have not. There's a lot of ones with fan, like Fanbase, Fantext.
Yeah. And so he made Fantext. And then pretty much what this app is going to do is like revolutionary. He actually lives out here in Miami. Cool. And pretty much it's letting people monetize their audience. Yes. And so he's basically in this app using AI, creating the likeness of an individual to like, you know, first, of course, they have to like answer questions and everything. And then over time, the AI will step in and literally be like a replication version of them. And so people can pay now, you know, as little as $2 a text message to have conversation with these people and ask whatever questions that they want. And so, you know, your app definitely is on that stage of, you know, just revolutionary and expediting the game. And so my challenge or question to you for that is, how do you not let yourself, you know, keep up with some of the trends that fall into like LinkedIn or Instagram to where they're always adding these new features and everything?
Yeah, that's a great question because that's where all the critics come into play, right? Your angel investors, your venture capitalists, you know, your friends, your colleagues. And that's the common thing in business that always comes up. Like, hey, Jason, when you get really good at this, you know, what's going to happen when LinkedIn just says, we're going to activate that feature, right? And then you got Twitter, you know, who switched it to X recently. And they're like, we're going to do it all, right? That's literally what he said. He's like, what they're doing in China, you know, in comparison to the US is night and day with these mobile apps, right? With these apps that could do it all, right? A lot more with money, you know, and, you know, trading hands within these platforms, of course. So you have to look at it from this perspective, you know, that when you're a startup, you could run a lot quicker and make decisions a lot faster because these bigger brands have too many lawyers, right? So and I'm going to use a great example. Clubhouse came out and skyrocketed, right? Everyone tried to copy Clubhouse and everyone said, oh shit, LinkedIn's creating LinkedIn audio. They're going to be the 800-pound gorilla against Clubhouse. Let me ask you a question. What happened to LinkedIn audio since? Zilch, right? Flop. By the time they launched, it had so many bugs. People could not believe it. They're like, wait, this is LinkedIn? Like the people testing it, you know, would have to say, hey, leave the room, come back in if you're on Android. Android was horrible when they launched. And eventually they just never got it down. To this day, they never, ever made a dent on Clubhouse. The LinkedIn audio rooms are actually coming back right now as we speak. It's kind of funny because they couldn't even like list like where the events were. They didn't like, no one knew when they were happening. You had to like push everyone to the event, but other people on LinkedIn did not know. So my point is like, sometimes there's too many lawyers in the room. Right? These big companies that are publicly traded, you know, they don't want to rock the boat, right? So as much as like, you know, people think like, oh, LinkedIn's going to go do it. It's like, well, we're owned by Microsoft. And we are more concerned that this feature linked like audio can create a lawsuit. So real quick, you know what they do? They're like, well, let's start it with a basic, see how it goes. They never get out there. So most of these features never come around because they're publicly traded companies. and they're too scared to have an issue with their shareholders at the
Wow.
end of the day. So you put 10 lawyers in a room, they could find a way to say no to everything, right? I've learned a lot about that in the financial service space. Everything's like, no, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do that. So these big companies just, they don't invent very well. And also when they attach it to their platform and it's not the primary reason why people are using it, it ends up like not being the focal point. So it ends up not working. And we've seen this over and over again. We've seen it with like Facebook versus Instagram. Like, why does Instagram still exist then? Right? Like Facebook could have copied, the story. They did, but it's like no one uses the story in Facebook.
No.
Right? We still like the stories on Instagram for some reason. LinkedIn tried to copy the stories. Never worked. They pulled down the feature. Right? They thought, oh, professionals will like stories. Nope, didn't work. So when you build something from the ground up for the core reason, it ends up typically working better. So at the end of the day, as an entrepreneur, and this goes to all entrepreneurs out there, is ignore the noise. If you believe in, that product or that mobile app or that business idea, it's like, go for it and don't worry about that stuff. It's going to be a gazillion competitors. And I get that all the time. I get text messages like, what about this app? What about that app? And I go, but no one else knows about it. So I'm not worried. I'm not going to waste my time, because if I don't know about it, my friends don't know about it, right? They're not real competition. A brand that has like $5 million of revenue, they're not that big of competition, right? There's companies out there that do billions and you still haven't even heard of them, right? So at the end of the day, I just think that you just have to, lead with integrity, transparency, and build a community. People like communities today. So with these other apps that you're mentioning, it's fine. Like, you don't always have to be Instagram. I think too many people want to be like $1 trillion company, billions. It's like, not everything has to be OnlyFans. I think they just reported that they did like 5 billion plus of revenue, which is absolutely crazy. But like with 53 employees, but like not every brand needs 50 employees. And WhatsApp did that. Instagram did that. I think Snapchat did that. But it's like, let's be honest, like you don't need a community always that size. It comes with a lot of problems. You can have a nice community with 10,000 people, 50,000 people, right? And at the end of the day, it's like Owwll's in the 6K range right now of people that have downloaded the platform. Yes, our goal is to get over 100,000 in the next 12 months. So that way more people could sign in and see more variety of professionals at any given moment they signed in, right? It's 2 a.m, 4 a.m. How cool would it be? Like, I'm bored. I woke up, I can't sleep. I'm gonna call someone an Owwll, right? You're sitting at the beach. Yeah, I'm bored. Instead of listening to music, I'm gonna call someone. Education is powerful, and knowledge. And talking to someone who's been there. I mean, literally, think about how much time you saved me with that camera. I sat there and got the camera. I'm smushing out lens. I'm like, am I an idiot? I'm watching YouTube videos, right? And I just realized I bought something that had a wrung letter. Literally, the internet, it had a wrung letter based on the lens, and I didn't pick up on it. When I showed you what I purchased and I showed you my Sony camera, you said to me, like, you bought the one for Canon. And then you're like, see this one little digit, the same price? But how cool is it? Returned one, bought the other one. Next day, I was in business. But ready for this? It would have taken me hours to figure that out on my own. But because I talked to someone knowledgeable, within minutes, you gave me the solution. And that's what Owwll is. It's like, stop Googling everything and YouTubing it and ChatGPT now. It's like, sometimes like the answer's not there. Sometimes the answer is just to call somebody, and that's easier. We've all been in situations where we're killing ourselves trying to find the right YouTube video. Time is money. And your knowledge that you have about cameras and podcasting is so powerful. Look at this studio you have set up. So many people try to do this themselves. Wouldn't it be easier to just pay you $500, come in for a day and be like, what cameras, right? What lighting, what microphones, and how valuable is it that someone could literally move up quicker? So I'm a big believer in that. When I started my podcast, I just hire people. They told me what sound equipment to buy. They told me what lighting. I didn't have to do anything. So I think too many people just are always cheaping out. They're always like the do-it-yourselfers. Yeah, do-it-yourself works in certain capacities. I get it. You got to start somewhere. I was raised in the do-it-yourself environment where, I think epoxy and duct tape fix everything, right? And that's good when you want to do certain things yourself. But there's times where it's worth to pay professionals that know exactly what they've made mistakes on, and literally be like, don't buy that camera.
Yeah.
Don't buy that microphone. Don't buy that soundboard, right? Like, this is why.
And it creates a relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. And future collaboration. And when you look at Actually, I just saw a video about this on TikTok. Rockefeller, one of the, wealthiest individuals in the world ever. When he died, they saw that he had the biggest Rolodex in the world. And we're talking about the old school Rolodex.
Yeah.
Nowadays, your cell phone contacts, right? So the reason why it was so powerful is every time he met someone, he would write something down about them. So every time then he met with that person, he would say, "Oh, how are your 2 kids doing? How's your dog?" And people would always remember that he knew that, but it would create a stronger bond, a better relationship. And inevitably, it's law of reciprocation. People want to do business with those people, right? So everyone's chasing followers, but then you don't know any of these people. And that's where it goes back down to like what I said earlier is like cell phone contacts, right? I shared my cell phone number with you, right? When you look down at your cell, if you have thousands of people that you could text, that's powerful. Or call, right? Because when you're in a bind, those people will be there for you because you got their cell phone numbers. Your little friends on Instagram that never respond, they will not be there for you. Your million followers. I mean, literally know a lot of people with millions of followers. And it's not the reality. These people are not there for them when shit goes south, right? The people in your cell phone number are. So I'm just a big believer, like going back to the Rockefeller video I saw, is like, that's all about Owwll, right? For him, it was the Rolodex of relationships. Owwll has a whole log of all the people you've spoken to. How cool is it? Go back one day and be like, oh, I got to get back to that person. You never remember all the Zooms you've had or the networking meetings, but in Owwll, it's all logged. Now you click their profile and get back on a call with them. And Owwll's all about building and blossoming relationships and building connections. So to me, it's just like simple things scale. When people say that's a stupid app, I don't like it, I laugh. I go, what do you not like? I had somebody ask to cancel their account yesterday. And I'm going to say this publicly. What a fucking moron. Ready? He took 6 calls, and I hope you're listening to this. He had 37 missed calls.
Wow.
Right? And now we sent him emails saying, it's $10 a month to use Owwll and you get a $10 credit, which makes it free practically when you're an expert. And I looked at his call log to all the people who called him. Guess who was in there 3 times? Me. Guess who has a business in South Florida? Him. How stupid does that individual look that he's like, this is a useless platform? Ready for this? I wanted to have him on my podcast show, The Shrimp Tank, right? Somebody told me that he was a good person, that he helps build communities. I'm sitting here listening to this guy tell me that a platform, how could it be useless if 37 people try to call you and pay you for your time?
Wow.
So the individual didn't know how to use it right, jumped to conclusions, and inevitably I'm like, what is so hard to understand here? You have conversations with people. That's it. If you can't see around the corner, I got news for you. You shouldn't be in business.
True.
Right? Because at the end of the day, if people are calling you and looked at your profile and saw value in speaking with you and 37 people called you and you didn't see value in that, excuse me, like you're on the wrong platform.
Yeah.
Maybe you shouldn't be a business owner. Maybe you shouldn't represent that you're supporting a community. Because if your community is trying to call you and you're not answering, I don't know. It's a little fluffy to me.
Yeah.
So my answer is like kind of funny. It's like, Owwll's actually the simplest thing in the world. Call someone and make shit happen. It's no different saying, oh, going to networking events are a bunch of bullshit. Nothing happens. It's like, no, they're not good because you don't know how to properly interact with people, right? And properly follow up with people and properly like be a giver, right? Often people end up just wanting to solicit and be a taker. But when you look at all the most successful entrepreneurs, behind the scenes, it's those thank you cards. It's the responding with emails. And a great example is our communication with LinkedIn. Then we started an email. We're both very responsive. Maybe that's our hustle in New York.
Yeah.
That is ingrained in us. It's communication skills. Because it doesn't matter if you're late for a meeting, it's that you communicated that you're late.
Absolutely.
Right. If I'm late after hitting traffic or I had to, I had an issue, I couldn't get out of my house on time because I got kids, nothing's more important to me than to tell the person that I'm going to meet, hey, I know we're supposed to meet at 10 o'clock. I'm running 15 minutes behind. Even if I'm 1 minute late, I'm reaching out to that person and say, hey, I'm running behind schedule, right? Because their time is valuable. I would want somebody to tell me if they were running late. Because something, I stop what I'm doing. I get off meetings and I'm ready for my next meeting. And nothing bothers me more than when I drop off a Zoom meeting with a customer or client for my next meeting, and I jump onto the Zoom and they're not there. And you know what they say when they get on the Zoom 15 minutes late? Sorry, I was running late on another meeting.
You could have said that.
So at the end of the day, every single one of us has a cell phone right here. And everybody is accountable because of this. Because you could all text the person. You could all email the person quite quickly. But people put themselves first. Right? That individual that ran 15 minutes, they found that their meeting was more important than my meeting coming up then. Right? Because if they found it more valuable, they would have shut that other meeting down and jumped on. So at the end of the day, it's a slap in the face when people do that today. When I have people that are trying to get hired and they're running late on a meeting and they don't call me, I just already know it's a bad fit.
Yeah.
Because it makes no sense. But the person who calls me, I love it. Like, hey, sorry, I hit traffic. Because that's a really good sign that they care. Right? They didn't want to be late and they want to respect your time by letting you know. And I've done a lot of interviews with a lot of entrepreneurs, and I'm in shock actually how their businesses stay alive because they are just,
customer service.
Sometimes I've learned in business that people could run businesses for a quite long time before it unravels, right? That they get away with a lot based on the demand of a business, the sector they're in, and there isn't as much competition. So their customer service could lack. And you see this a lot in the construction industry, the trades, right? Plumbing, because a lot of people aren't held accountable in these industries. And there's no one in the 20s and 30s going into these industries. So they're able to kind of get away with horrible, customer communication. And you got no choice. Or it's a monopoly. It's like Comcast, right? It's like we've all been on the phone with Comcast or DirecTV or
Absolutely.
one of these cable companies. And it's like, what are you going to do? There's like 2 or 3 out there and they all suck. Right. But I'm talking about the smaller businesses. They could also get away with it too. But that's what Owwll's all about though. Our platform, it's like people can't get away with stuff. You're held accountable. And again, going back to that other person who sent that email, it's just like, why would you say the words it's useless? You could have just easily just said, hey, I'm not feeling it. Moved on. But by saying it's useless to a very small brand, who the CEO is going to look at it, which is me and the founder, and I'm local. Like, isn't that stupid?
Yeah.
Right?
You're burning a bridge.
Correct. And that's a great point. That's a great segue. Burning bridges. How many people have burned bridges with you?
A lot. And some even before they even know exactly everything that I do, or just like you were saying, they judge that character level and everything. And then, what really surprises me or what really surprises them is the aftermath or what they see or what they hear from somebody else. And they're like, hey, he's, and it's so subtle, but humbling at the same time. Cause it's like, my tax bracket is 34%. I tell people that off rip and they're like, hold on, what? You're doing what? The Porsche's outside, the Benz is outside, the stuff are out there. And then, but when I approach people, it's more on just I want to have genuine conversation. I don't advertise any of that. I don't even showcase most of it, and it's funny how people interact with you once they find out that you do live a certain lifestyle or that you do have access to a certain lifestyle and burning bridges even after. And Dan will tell you there's certain people that I physically help, just like how you give people $10 to make the free call. I've done that in so many different scenarios to do whatever they want and they still burn the bridge. And I hope you're watching this. You're a fucking moron.
No, it's just like people today, because phones is swipe right, swipe left for dating, right? Then the next step is social media, where it's just messages. There's another person out there you can message, but these are real people. And then when you bump into real people, they are not going to forget how you made them feel, right? They're not going to forget that message. I don't forget them. Like, I could act naive, like, oh yeah, and like act like I didn't remember, but no. I know in the back of my mind, I'm never working with that person ever again, right? Because their arrogance came out, right? And their true character came out. Something foolish. And too often people burn bridges because they think, oh, it's a big city, it's a big town. And then eventually you realize real quick, it's a small town. Big, yeah. People in business see each other a lot at events, and you bump into there's Levan Center of Innovation down here. they have a lot of events. So we keep going there. We're going to bump into one another. Then you got FAU right in town. They do a lot of events with their college business, specifically in their entrepreneurship unit. So if you're in business, you end up bumping into a lot of people at these different networking conventions, of course, or like Emerge Americas once a year. We'll throw a big event. A lot of people network down there in the tech community. So I just think burning bridges is so foolish today because it's just like biting your tongue. Even if you're right, like even if that person didn't find it useful, you don't have to go and put it on paper, on words. Just like hold it in. Be like, I wasn't feeling it. I got a couple calls, didn't love them. That's it. Right. You don't have to bash somebody else's dream, right? Let them work on it. Everyone starts with something and then they work their way to make it better, right? This podcast studio, when it started, might not have had these mics, right? You might have had a different set of mics, but then you're like, wait, you got your rhythm going and then you got better mics. Then the cameras, maybe it started with just your iPhone, right? And then all of a sudden, like you upgrade it to Sony, right? These lights, it's like people have to start somewhere and grow. I hate the people who just bash from day one. They want everything. You know why? Because they never been in a position to build a mobile app. They've never been in a position. They've gotten the entitlement over them. Like they're used to Instagram working so perfect for them, right? It's like, so everyone immediately just wants, these things that are worth, a gazillion dollars, right? Instagram, we know, is pumped in probably hundreds of millions of dollars of app development, right? So often it's just like that entitlement side that they immediately expect it, and expectations, of course. But non-burning bridge is so hard. Sometimes you just got to bite your tongue at times and pass it and be the nice guy on email, be the nice guy on text, because you don't want to you don't want to jump into their arena. You don't want to put yourself in a predicament. Then all of a sudden they're taking a screenshot of your email and then posting it right at the end of the day. So building relationships, so powerful. And of course, just making sure that you just always lead with honesty and transparency is my whole belief.
Nice. And so, on the main advertising, efforts for Owwll,
yes,
what do you do? Live events, or what do you find are your most profitable or proficient methods to really put yourself out there as an app?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because it is hard, right? That's the key that a lot of people don't speak about. The app world's been commoditized. A lot of businesses have been commoditized. Podcasting, commoditized, right? And often, everyone just says, oh, that's a brilliant idea. Okay, so people go out and build their brilliant ideas because everyone, pump them up, right? And all of a sudden they build an app, it could cost 10 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand, all the way up to $1 million, right? Owwll has over $1 million with app development that has been spent so far to where we are as a platform right now. And when you look at, the idea, it's worth nothing if you can't get people to then use it, right? So I think we're starting to see this shift where people are going back now to the drawing board and saying, hey, before you build this, what is your go-to-market strategy, right? At least the right mentors are telling people this.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to go down the consumer lane, good luck, right? Consumers, really hard lane to go down versus B2B, right? When you're trying to, sign up 10 businesses for 10,000 each, all of a sudden you're like got 100,000 in revenue.
Yeah.
When you're trying to sign up consumers like we are now for, $10 to have an expert profile, right? And then it acts as a credit and we're taking 20%. So that's $2, in a situation that we're making a profit when someone's an expert and uses that money to call somebody. So at the end of the day, most people run out of money because they build their idea and then they can't market the idea. They don't have money left to market it. It should be flipped. You should have more money for marketing, because the app side has been commoditized. Everyone's got brilliant ideas, but you need a community at the end of the day. Most people fall into brands that they feel connected to. I'm wearing Nikes today. I feel connected to the brand, right? I enjoy wearing them. Makes me feel more confident. I like matching my shoes with my clothes, right? But we go around and start looking at all the brands people wear. It's like they feel more connected. The car they drive, right? The sunglasses, and even the apps, right? So I'll use cars, Tesla, right? Phenomenal job. People said, no way, don't buy that stock. Worst stock ever, overrated, right? No way, don't touch that thing. This makes 0 sense. But the community said, no, you don't get it, right? Same with Apple. Like everyone's like, said Apple's, not the best phone, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, look at where we are today. We go from the 12 to the 13. We just stay with the devices, right? We feel connected to these brands. And when you're building a brand from scratch, I think that's where you have to go today. You have to start with like, what does the community want? And that's what we've done with Owwll is we have brand ambassadors, we have affiliates, and they feel so tied to the brand. They worked with us through the bugs and the challenges, and they're sticking with us. You see it every day. The same usual suspects every day. They're on the platform. They're calling new people and welcoming them to the community. So, that was the hardest struggle, getting from 0 people to 500 people. You start texting people, they don't care. Now I'm talking texting them to download it in a beta environment because you got to test the platform before you make it in the App Store. Because if you launch in the App Store and you have bugs, see you later. You can't recover, right? You get 10, 20 negative reviews and people are quick to leave negative reviews, right? They didn't, get an email. They didn't get a text. We have real money on our platform. So we had to really test this well. We got about 1,000 people to sign up in beta. That was challenging. That was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Right? People say the financial service business is hard. About 99 out of 100 people fail in the financial service business year one, right? Think about 20s. You had tons of friends join the financial service. In New York City, it's like that. Everyone joins because there's so much money to be made in financial services. And, the big insurance companies, you start going down like MetLife, Prudential, Mass Mutual, Guardian, New York Life, right? And then Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanley, right? UBS. You could just go on and on with financial service companies. Every one of us has friends that tried it and then they decide this is not for them. It's hard, especially sales. And apps are the same way. Everyone sees that it has so much potential with apps, but to get a download is so hard. So hard to get someone, because you think about it, I text a friend, they have to then take it serious, go to the App Store. Then they have to hit the download button. Then they forget their stupid pin on Apple ID. Like, I can't get in. You know how many people have done that? And then all of a sudden they get in and it says sign up. They're like, I don't want to give my information. I don't know anything about this app. They're quick to give it to friggin' Threads though, right? Like fucking take all my data, take my birthday, take my cell phone device, take everything. Don't read terms and conditions. Take it all. But the second they go to a new app, like, I don't know about this. Is this secure? I'm not sure. It's so funny how people like all their morals go out the window, drinking alcohol, at night and doing all this shit. But then when it comes to like an app, they get all serious. Like, I don't know about this app. I'm like, really? Really? Like, are we serious right now? And that happens. And then here's the hardest part. They download it. Now they just have email and password. They have to create a profile. You know what happens to most people? Like, I don't feel like doing this. Next. That's it. They spend 1 minute in the app. They get flustered and move on. Everyone gets flustered today. Everyone wants now. That's why TikTok is so popular. It's instant. You log in, swipe, you get video. You don't do anything, right? Everyone trying to copycat TikTok, but look, again, going back to community, they got there first. So even though, Facebook and Instagram trying to compete with them, they've proven that everyone still wants to stay with TikTok. Because that's where they started, their reels, their stories, whatever it might be. So with Owwll, hardest thing ever to get downloads. And marketing wise, we have brand ambassadors, right? I am throwing everything against the wall. I've tried Facebook ads. Conventions do very well because you could show people the app in person, call someone and do a demo call, and their eyes light up because they understand it. They're like, that's cool. This is simple. I search for an expert. I call them, done. Right? Too often when people download themselves, they're like, all these people are available. They kind of get nervous. They don't take that first step. They don't want to call someone. We give them $10 to download Owwll and try it out. And they call up to 10 people because there's a lot of people at $1 in the app. They call 10 people and get 10 opportunities to build connections. Right. And the issue is we see a lot of that $10 never being used. They see the video that says you could call people, but it's nerve-wracking to a lot of people to call someone that they've never met. And
just have a random
we're so used to just texting people that we've never met or messaging on socials that we never met. But that goes back to like our core group of people using it. Guess what? If you're a business owner or you want to become a business owner and an entrepreneur, I got news flash for you. You got to call people that you've never met. You've got to speak to people in person that you've never met. Because you answer this question. Have you ever seen a successful person that, I mean, yes, obviously there's introverts that create business that don't have to talk to anyone, but usually is that true?
Not at all.
Right. Even Mark Zuckerberg's got to be in Congress getting grilled by Congress these days, right? Saying with most introverts that don't like to speak in front of people, they end up actually becoming extroverts. Right? Haven't you seen it all the time? Where an
Absolutely.
introvert becomes an extrovert because of business.
Mhm.
It's because they have to come out of their shell in some format, typically with their industry as they scale. Their people want to hear from them.
And I'm going to call somebody out because yesterday we had an event where I had a speaking engagement. And in that speaking engagement, you know, he just came on as a coaching client for me, and I had him in the crowd, and somebody randomly asked me a question while we're on the panel, and I said, oh, well, one of my coaching people are here, and I brought him up, and he like froze. And he's a startup, but this startup has received over 350,000 in like seed money and sponsorships and stuff, and he had Pharrell back him for 25,000. But me just putting him on the spot in that predicament, I'm like, dude, you have to talk to people. You know, this is how you have to interact with your audience. Like, if you want more people, especially in your startup phase, like super startup only has like 5 businesses and they're in beta version right now. And so it's like, you have to really put yourself in the room if you really want to get something out of the room, and, you know, just be that leader, that CEO kind of thing. And even if it's not something that you've been in before, it's a skill that you have to develop outside of just business, understanding how to converse with people and really have that level of conversation that can hold, but also, you know, find things in common, find things that, you know, how can I help this individual?
Of course.
It's not all about you. And so, you know, with that being said, you being a father, you know, would you want your children to follow in your steps as far as what you're doing, or would you want them to kind of do their own thing? And then what's one thing, because I believe videos are timeless, you know, what's one thing that you would want to tell your kids going into entrepreneurship if they choose that route?
Yeah. So I love it. Like my kids, I'm like, go do a lemonade stand. And we live in a big community, and then cars drive through the gate, and you know, they're in the front. I'm like, put it on the side, right? Maybe it'll work better. I'm like, then you see my daughter like jumping up on there and like waving a thing and experimenting. So of course I'm instilling it at an early age, you know, that they can make money and then take that money and go buy toys, right? They go to Walmart or Target, of course, or Amazon these days. And it starts at a young age, you know, showing them that they could do it. And I was in their shoes when I was young with my father's store. Now, do I want them to go down my path, which was like financial services and then app? I'm going to leave it to them. All right. I don't think my father ever said, Jason, go become a financial advisor or build an app. I didn't know I was going to build an app. If you asked me 5 years ago, Jason, are you going to build an app? I said, what are you talking about? I don't build apps. That's not my thing. Right. Owwll just came around because COVID-19 hit. And I was like, this makes no sense. Like, I'm driving to my office. Every single person's at home. And I'm sitting here with a Rolodex of thousands of people on my cell phone. I can't call any of them, but they all are dying to speak with people. And I was like, this makes zero sense. If Owwll existed, I could call them on my way to work. Literally, that's how it existed. And I was like, we need a better way to have one-on-one conversations where you're up at 8 a.m., I'm up at 8 a.m., and like we really kind of want to talk, but there's no way to know, right? Well, that's what Owwll does, you know, because if you're online at 8 o'clock, I'm going to call you just to bullshit, literally. It's not about the money. It's about chatting with one another. So when it comes back to my kids, you know, I think it's going to go the same lane. I'm going to just teach them communication skills, teach them how to fall down and then get back up, right? Like my son got kicked in the back by my son's very athletic. And, you know, some reason a kid first day of school kicked him in the back.
Wow.
Right. So at the end of the day, you know, you have to just instill them like, hey, you know, don't let them do that to you next time. You know, next time, you know, tell the kid, like, don't touch me. You know, you do that again, like, you know, I'm going to kick you back. Right. Not everything's always like the proper way. Right. At the end of the day, it's like, you know, in the real world, I got news for you. You know, you're in business. Someone's going to
kick you in the back,
or stab you and do something wrong. And you have 2 choices. You could just keep getting kicked, or you could fight back. And with Owwll, a great example is sometimes you have to fight back, right? People are going to keep stomping on you and trying to get away with stuff. And when there's real money, try to steal money off the platform in certain ways that is against terms and conditions. And we've had to kick people off. And then you have to stand up. So that's not allowed on our platform. See you later. Right. And you know why it's not allowed? Because, you know, you're ruining it for everybody else. and we have a community that we've built, and we're not going to have tolerance for that type of stuff. So I really instill in my kids, just learn, be a sponge, gain knowledge through your teachers. They're too young to really know what's going on, right? 8 and 6 years old right now. But I hope when they go off to college, come back, they figure it out. I never knew what I want to do when I went to college. I just knew something in business, something in finance. I'm good with math, good with numbers. I'm good with talking with people. And I just, I didn't know I was going to be a financial advisor back then. I didn't know I was going to do an app. It's just like whatever life gets thrown at you, you just kind of run with it. I truly believe that once you have these skill sets, you could do anything, right? If I wanted tomorrow, go into podcasting 100% of my time, like I know that I could just, after doing over 300 episodes in person, I could just start selling the studio and selling people an idea that podcasting will change their business like it did mine, because it did, right? So we created Owwll because of podcasting. Like I believed in, myself so much and confidence through what I've learned through others that I'm like, I could do this, even though I'm not a tech co-founder like everyone says you have to be. And I just think at the end of the day, it's like that goes back to our children, is that you could do anything. It's just like learn those basic skill sets, communicating with people, on those difficult days, getting back up, right? How many times I've been in the casino and I've lost $1,000 back in the Atlantic City days, driving from New York City. And you just can't, you're driving home, you're disgusted with yourself, right? You drank too much. It was your birthday weekend. You were with 8 of your friends. You didn't get much sleep. And then you lost a lot of money, and you ate like crap as well. You go home, you just feel like bad. But you know what? It's important to just get back up and go, something, I'm gonna have the best week in business, and just like put in the effort in business to rebound. So I use a lot of my haters as fuel, and you hear that a lot. Is like, for all those emails, I actually save them. I get a lot of emails, screenshot them, I hit save. And I just have this like folder of haters, and then also like a folder of the positive ones, because we have a lot of positive ones to say like, this app's genius. This app's going to impact millions of people. And I truly believe it is going to impact millions and millions of people, because it's such a simple thing. I'm connecting to like-minded people to connect. And then you see on the internet that they're doing a podcast together, right? So it's just like, we made it easier for them to connect. It's not rocket science here. So then it goes right back to marketing. It's like, if I can market this better and get more people to believe in it, it's always going to be a chicken and egg until you get big enough, right? How did eBay start? Like, how the hell did we sell an item? Well, they had to start somewhere with 10 people, then 100 people, then 1,000 people. But until it got scale, that's when it started making sense. Same with Uber, same with Lyft, all right? Same with many things, like even OnlyFans. Like OnlyFans, needed scale for it to work. And now it's a $5 billion brand, right? Owwll literally one day will be a $5 billion brand, right? Because I believe in it, and I don't let the noise stop me from people saying, well, LinkedIn's going to do it, right? Or maybe it's X, maybe it is. Maybe they'll buy us. Who the hell knows? All I know is right now, with the limited data that we have and the amount of incoming messages that are positive versus negative, I just know that it will be there. And all those people with the negative messages, guess what? They're going to re-download it. Right. And they're like, oh, it's better now. Oh, I always knew Jason was going to do it. Right. Like they're always, all of a sudden your haters become your followers, they say. Right. I think Eminem said that in a song recently. Someone, I mean, a lot of people say that, of course, but I save them to just like, remember like what I really went through. And one day I'm going to show my kids that and be like, look, that was not easy. Look what they said about daddy, right? Look at the App Store. Right? Look at the Google Play Store. When you're a small app and they know you're the founder, they'll fucking write your name on there.
Wow.
Right? They'll write your shit on the internet. They're quick, to judge. Right? And there's nothing you can do. People have every right, to have freedom of speech and say what they think. I have a microphone. I have freedom of speech. Right? So at the end of the day, I have every right to call them out like they call me out at the end of the day. But I'm going to use it as fuel. So thank you, everybody, for shit talking Owwll, leaving negative reviews on the App Store, and leaving negative emails, LinkedIn messages, Instagram messages, because I'm coming for you. I'm going to be a big brand one day, and one day you're going to want to re-download Owwll, and I'm not going to forget. I'm going to forget the shit that you said on those messages.
Jason, this was amazing. Thank you so much for just, dedicating your time. I definitely value your time, your knowledge. I learned a lot, just not even about you, but just about, your morals, your compass, how you interact with not only business, but just personally. And you
Sure.
definitely have an app that super revolutionary. And there's a lot of entrepreneurs that do watch this app and a lot of people that are starting business that watch this podcast. And so definitely I know that they're going to enjoy this. And if they wanted to join the app or connect with you, what are some ways that they could do that?
Yeah, great ending to the show, of course. How do I get to this app? You go to the App Store or Google Play Store. We are on Apple devices or Android, and we are in the United States and Canada temporarily. No other countries. And it's Owwll. So owl spelled with two W's and two L's, because owls are wise, two L's because you're going to love it, of course. And pretty much people love the logo. Like, we have t-shirts, we have hoodies, we have hats. It's one of those brands you definitely will connect with and want to get one of these t-shirts and wear it publicly. So definitely give it a download. And when you do that, you'll get $10 upon signing up. You call myself every Monday. I'm on there for Mentorship Mondays, and I drop my price from $100 down to $1. And I allow people to call me. Anyone who becomes an Owwll expert, we're a small platform. So when you become an Owwll expert, pretty much I go out of my way always to call the new people. I called practically every new Owwll expert on the platform, right? And one day that won't be, available. So look at it as this is an opportunity that you're going to get to speak to the founder of a platform that is scaling, right? And people love that about the platform. They're like, this is so cool. You get to speak to the founder and really give ideas, right? We have a huge rollout coming out in the next few months, and it all came from the Owwll community. And it's so unique that we have a private Facebook group where I could post like, any ideas for this app? And literally the idea that you say in the comments in the Facebook group, you see it come out in the real app. And how cool is that? I mean, I don't get to talk to Instagram and say, hey, can you move that freaking button that's annoying me? Right. Or LinkedIn. Like, they don't respond. Right. And people are kind of a little sick of that. Right. When your account gets deactivated and you're like, why? And they're like, terms and conditions. You're like, what terms and conditions? They're like 12,000 pages.
Yeah.
And you're like, and then you ask them like, what, where, what? And they're like, 6.666. And then you're like, okay, that's another 100 pages. Can you explain in more detail? Or like, you're doing a Facebook ad. You're like giving money to them. And unfortunately, they don't tell you why it's denied. Or you're like, copyright infringement. Like, what? I own like my own Owwll video. They said like couldn't be posted for an ad. I'm like, I made this Owwll video. Who am I copying? Like, it's my logo. Like, what are you talking about? I own the copyright, right? Like, and it's hard because they don't tell you, can't talk to people. And I think a lot of people are just getting sick of that. And I'll bring it back one point. You said something earlier that I picked up on that is important, is that people would judge you based on just immediately looking at you. You're not wearing a watch. You're wearing, basic outfit, black jeans and shirt. And that goes back to my point of like, people judge people too quickly on social media or in person. Because I've been in your shoes too now a lot. And I'll bring that up because I've been in incubators. I've been part of the FEU Tech Runway. I've been part of the Levant study. All of a sudden, you're the startup person on the other side. And it's interesting. I'm seeing it exactly what you're talking about, where I enter a room, I have a little booth, and these mentors come over, or these angel investors and venture capitalists come over. And you could see like the way they talk to you is so different. And I'm sitting here being judged and they don't know. And the funniest part is what ends up happening often in my situation, because I run the Shrimp Tank podcast, somebody else comes over and they're like, oh, Jason. And like the person who runs the Levant Center, John Winsky. And all of a sudden you see like the person's like shift. They're like, oh, that person's not who I thought they were. This little, because there's a lot of apps that literally like, like it's an idea on paper. It's a PowerPoint, or they're not even in beta yet. And maybe they're like $20,000 into it. So it's interesting. I've seen a lot of that. And that also goes back to my success. Something that I always did in my life was never judge people. I always led just with let's have a conversation, see where it goes. My financial service business scaled for that same reason. I literally would go into people's homes, talk with them. And lots of times it'd be the shit home down the block. My biggest client to date, actually, you know where the JFK AirTran is?
Yeah.
He owns the whole entire block. He owns everything. Marriott tried to buy him for $300 million, just his lots over there.
Holy shit.
And I could tell you that I almost didn't take the meeting. at first. Then I went there and it was a hole in the wall, a little real estate office.
Wow.
Right. And then eventually I went in there. I'm like, net worth went from like 20 million. I'm like, is it really 20 million? I'm like, maybe they own a couple properties here. Then all of a sudden I started reading all the signs and it had all his initials. And then all of a sudden I looked at his home where he lived, $500,000 home, Rockville Center. So you never can always, sometimes you can judge a book by its cover, but not always. Lots of times it's guys like you and me, and people make judgments based on, my little watch here that's $99, right? Because I don't sometimes always believe in, the $10,000 Rolex, right? If I wanted it, I could buy it.
Yeah.
But my point is sometimes as a business, you just have to lead with just not always judging everyone and just being open-minded conversations. And I was like that in my financial service business. And that blossomed my business to getting up on stage in front of 500 financial advisors at 27, speaking to how to grow a business and specifically about how to grow a team, in the financial service business, which was very difficult to do. Most people are solo practitioners in that industry. And teamwork is very important in that business, but also with Owwll and also in the community of Owwll. And the reason why I bring that up is too often it's people are just always looking for the carrot. They're like, well, I only want to speak with that person because they have money. And then they make that mistake is that they're judging too much. And often you can't really know who has that. And at the end of the day, it's I do the same thing with Owwll. I call everybody. I don't care if you're priced $1, $20. I call and I find out, and you end up developing relationships with people because you're treating everyone fairly, right? And just having quick conversations at networking meetings because you just don't know. So I think one of the major mistakes people make today is just immediately, listening to any podcasts or books and immediately find your target market and niche and then work with only those people and, and screen everyone out. And, when you're bigger, right? But that's 1% of 1%.
Yeah.
Right. You ain't Mark Zuckerberg, slow down. Right. You just see too many people just getting in their own way in life and being too judgy, which goes right back to the messages that I'm sending. And people don't know that this is somebody that is serious, that has money to invest in their business because that's what they want at the end of the day anyway.
Yeah. I'm
the perfect customer, right? Everyone who works with me loves it because they're like, oh shit, this guy pays on time, right? He's transparent. He gets to the freaking point. No bullshit. We're no bullshit people.
Yeah.
We came from New York.
Yeah.
Cool.
No, most definitely. Jason, I appreciate everything. And, for if you watch this episode and you make it to this point, we're going to figure out a way, but I'm going to do $100 voucher for the Owwll app. And so the next 10 people just send mindset to my page or to the Owwll page.
Yeah. Well,
on Instagram or something or LinkedIn.
We'll put your referral code on the app.
There we go.
And then just when you download Owwll, it says, how did you hear about it? Just put mindset in there. So don't click Instagram or TikTok. Just literally put other and put mindset. And the first 10 people, you're going to do 100.
You're going to do a $10 credit for each person for a $100 credit total.
Got it. And I'll match that. So those people will get a $10 credit. So let's hear this out. They're going to get $10 from you. They're going to get $10 from Owwll because every new person gets $10. Then I'm going to match it another $10. They're going to get $30. Don't let that $30 expire. It always expires because you got to put time limits. You're smart as a brand. You have to have an expiration or it just creates a liability on your platform. So make sure you use it. Don't sit there and get stage fright. Call me, call him, and let's make it happen. Build connections.
Absolutely. I appreciate you coming on the show again. Make sure you tune into his podcast as well.
Yes.
And so tell them what that podcast is.
I have two right now.
Okay.
The one connected to Owwll is the Owwll podcast. That's very simple. Every Wednesday, now I am going live on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all the different channels, YouTube as well. And that's a podcast where we feature anyone throughout the United States. You happen to be flying into South Florida. We do it all in person, and we just want to learn about your expertise and then showcase you on the Owwll platform. You have to have 25,000 followers or more to get onto that podcast, or you have to be a business owner, have some serious influence, of course. So that's that one. Or the Shroom Tank is run in collaboration with the FEU Adams Center for Entrepreneurship. And that one is really, your local business owner. You can't be from out of the state because we want to collaborate with you further with the College of Business. We want you to come and talk to students. If you have some extra time, come to our local events. And that one, you have to be in business 5 years, not for startups, 5+ employees and $1 million of revenue. So we really have that one detailed out because we want people to learn from the people who've really done it. We don't want it to be like, oh, you just started a business 6 months ago and you have an Instagram handle and you're just like faking it till you make it. No, no, no. Like we look at your LinkedIn account, we need to see those employees. We want to make sure you are doing it, because that advice is powerful to our listeners, of course.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Absolutely. And so, guys, this was another great episode of Attractive Mindset. And as you can see, there's a lot of knowledge given here. And so make sure you just take time to really ingest everything that he was saying, because having these conversations save you time for
Yes.
things that you might want to do, not only in your business, but if you want to make an app, or if you want to find something else out, it could be a matter of hours, days, months, but instead you can get it done in minutes by just having a conversation with somebody. And so I'm your host again, Mastermind Rich, and we are here at Attractive Mindset. And as we always say, we look good, we live good, life is good. Talk to us. We talk back, and we're out.